Out the phone. I'm trying to figure out how to record this while I'm doing it. Yeah, like, and technology, to me, technology is wonderful. It's exciting. And I feel like people using it for all the wrong reasons. You can do so much more with technology than what people do with it. They're using it for all the wrong reasons, using it to tear each other down,
Yeah.
or to make themselves look bigger than what they are, when we should be connecting with each other and figuring out how to move forward as people
Yeah.
instead of just trying to be bigger than the next person when we're all doing the same thing. Because after you record that video, you're going to live a normal life. When the filter is gone and everything, it's just going to be you by yourself. You got to...
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense. And, we've been on a journey as a society trying to figure out the best way to use this technology. And, and even in the way that it was designed, Facebook and, was it Facebook and Google maybe, or YouTube executives that founded this technology are now going around the country warning people to stop using it because they didn't really understand how it was changing our brain chemistry. And it is, on the surface, I think meant to unite us, but it has actually ended up dividing us. And, I work with middle school kids. Well, I did work with middle school kids now. They're in, the school district separated middle school into their own buildings, and that's sad. I don't get to see them anymore. But, hearing the kinds of things that they deal with because of social media. Just the other day I was talking to some kids who were having issues, and I was like, well, you didn't see them before the break, so it's been like 2 weeks, right? And then I remembered, like, oh no, they've been on social media this whole time, and so problems that usually would be contained to the physical location at school now get brought out.
Follow them everywhere.
Exactly.
And, like, they got access to everything at a young age. Like, literally everything. And I mean, like, negative and a positive.
Mm-hmm.
And you load these kids up with all this information, and they don't even know how to navigate as a human first.
Right.
They should, like, I agree with the taking the phones out of the school.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like a distraction. And, like I was just saying, you should be able to navigate as a human first before you get all this information coming from everywhere about sex and opinions of how you live your life. Because all that's on social media. You see it, you scroll through these videos. You scroll through these videos and they have all kinds of opinions on how you should live your life and things what you should do and shouldn't do. You should be getting that from your parents first, not from social media.
Right. And now we have all these like algorithms and artificial intelligence that is, really working to exploit our kind of human tendencies towards the negative and towards, things that are more popular and social. And there's been studies that actually show how little time it takes to lead somebody down the path of like a conspiracy theory, for example, because it's like exciting, and then it just throws more and more of that at you until you've changed.
You find one fact, and then you find another, and you
Right.
or alternative fact,
Yeah,
and you just
no
go down and you find
verification. I remember like not that long ago, my daughter trying to convince me that mermaids were real. She's like, but this video, and like, yeah, to her that's evidence, but to me, I'm like, I know,
movies
behind that.
Like certain things you can't show me because I know like movie production and CGI, they could literally create anything.
Yeah.
Along with AI now, that's a whole nother. It's about to get crazy.
Yeah, and I think you're coming back into society at a time where like we're really grappling with what AI is going to do in terms of changing the fabric of our society. But it's an interesting perspective, I think, to be coming into this having not lived through this like handheld technological revolution that we've been through since maybe like 2010.
Yeah, and I'm glad I have that because I'm glad I'm not attached to my phone and I'm not attached to social media.
Yeah.
I could put away my phone or put my phone in my pocket and forget that it's there. I see other people around me, they have their phone in their hand literally.
It's an addiction.
Only time they don't have their phone is like when they're asleep.
Yeah.
Because they have it when they're eating, something right. They have it in the toilet, so they have it all day.
It's by the bedside.
Yeah, so like only time they don't have their phone is like when they're literally asleep. And some people don't sleep because of that.
Right.
I'm glad that I'm not attached to it because I could just, I said I made a post one time. I said I could throw my phone in the river. It won't even care.
Yeah. And like my life is in my phone, my calendar, all my contacts. Right?
And mine is too, but I'm not attached to it though.
Right.
So like, I'm in the tangibles, physical
Yeah.
things. I still want paper money.
You're free in a way that so many of us aren't anymore. And, you know, I'm very...
I'm taking advantage of that. And I see the difference between me and other people. And they probably looking at me like I'm weird, but really...
Yeah. I mean, I'm countercultural in that I won't let my daughter have a cell phone. And she's very mad at me about that. But because I know what it did to me, and I don't want that for her. And yes, she has a tablet, and, you know, that happened during the pandemic because tablets became our babysitters. Those of us who still had to work, you know.
Then you deal with children.
Yeah.
Their self-esteem isn't all the way up. They're still figuring things out.
100%.
And they'll post a picture, and people comments.
Yeah. Or
they could have, like, a negative confrontation with another classmate, and they take a picture of them and post it and put a comment on it, and everybody...
Yeah. It's definitely lowering self-esteem, especially for girls. And, you know, she doesn't have social media either. So at some point she will, but I'm even though she's not in agreement and we have fights about it, I think she'll thank me when she's older. And so having just come from being incarcerated and in a very different world than you are now, there's a lot going on that is happening inside the prisons that we're getting maybe a distorted view of here on the outside, and thinking about the strike that the correctional officers have started recently, and I wondered if you could share your thoughts on that.
I don't know where to start.
First, do we get the accurate picture of what's going on inside?
No. It's a closed environment. It's a world within inside of the world. And the officers are like, they run the world within this world. And they literally can do anything they want. Literally. Anything they want. On camera.
Without any
consequences, without any accountability. This guy that got killed in Marcy, it was on camera. And like they're making a big stink. They're supposed to make a big stink out of it. But that happens regularly.
It wasn't an isolated incident.
No. That happened to me personally over 20 times. But I didn't die, fortunately. But that happened to me personally over 20 times. You don't have to do anything to provoke it.
Right, they're trying to make it about, this guy was a terrible guy and he deserved it, but
they'll paint the picture like, you caused it, but how can I cause my own death?
Right.
Like, by being beat, handcuffed, and shackled. How can I cause my own death? Like, it's only so much I can do with shackles and, like, I got a waist chain on and leg shackles. It's only so much I can do to defend myself or attack anybody.
Right.
So, that guy was like, that happened to me before. Like, it was weird. One specific situation that happened to me. I'm going to bring up two. This was in Clinton Correctional Facility. This was 2012. I was in the mess hall, which is the cafeteria. My sister, baby father was there. We was at breakfast. We had donuts that day. I called across the next table to my sister, baby father, and asked for his donuts because he has to eat stuff out of the cafeteria. He said, all right, I'll give it to you when I get up to leave. When he got up to go leave, he handed me the donuts. I grabbed the donuts, turned around and put them on my tray. A sergeant comes up to me, said, give me your ID. I said, for what? He said, just give me your ID. I said, I didn't do anything. He said, you just turned around in your seat. I said, yeah, I just grabbed the donuts. That was it. I didn't do anything. He said, give me your ID. I said, why are you asking me for my ID? He said, come on, get up now. I got up. Now I grabbed my donuts. I had 4 donuts and 2 milks. I walk out to the hallway with the sergeant. He brings me to the hallway. He asked me to put my hands on the wall to pat frisk me. I put the donuts in I wrapped them up and put them in my pocket, and I still had the milks in my hand. So I put my hands on the wall, backed up, so he could pat frisk me. The milks are on the wall with me, I got it it's weird.
Yeah.
It's awkward. So I got my hands on the wall, they pat frisked me, and he started saying, I can't remember exactly what he's saying because this is over 10 years ago. But he hit me in the back of my head. But when he hit me in the back of my head, he hit me he didn't even hit me hard. It didn't hurt at all. Now looking back, I knew he hit me to provoke me. At the time, I didn't know what was going on. Why did he just do that? Because he hit me like a 2-year-old would hit me in the back of my head. So I just looked at him all right. I ignored it. Then he hit me again. So I'm sitting there what's going on? I'm trying to ignore it because I'm just want to go back and eat my donuts. I want to have my day. He hit me again. So I'm come on, man. Now I see he provoked me and I let him provoke me. But now looking back, I should have just ignored it. But I didn't know. I was young. I was 28 and just in my manhood, you keep hitting me, you physically touching me. So I turned around and I smacked him with the milks. They burst open and a bunch of officers came. They beat me up. They ended up getting me to the ground. Now once I'm on the ground, for me the fight is over. Right. Several officers that got sticks. And all I was really doing was defending myself, but I can't say I was defending myself because I could have ignored it, but he provoked me. And the point I'm trying to make is he hit me 3 times before I did anything.
Yeah.
So now I'm on the ground. One officer has one leg, one officer has another leg. One officer has one arm, one officer has another arm. One officer is holding my head. The sergeant, his name is Sergeant Menard, by the way, M-E-N-A-R-D. He's a lieutenant now. In Clayton Correctional Facility, Dannemora. He sat on my chest and plugged my nose and covered my mouth and repeatedly said, die, nigger, die.
Wow.
Now, in my head, I'm oh, he's really trying to kill me. This is what's going on? He's calling me, he's saying the N-word repeatedly. But...
Yeah, I'm not sure we can actually say that on the radio.
Excuse me, I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're telling your story.
So... he's saying that word, but in my mind, the word's not even affecting me because, sad to say, I call myself that. That's a whole nother story. But anyway, in my mind, I'm why are you trying to kill me? What happened? So I let my body go slack so he could get off me. So I guess he seen that he thought he got me. He said, oh, I guess I killed the N-word. And he got up off me, and then I got up and started going crazy, swinging and stuff, and they grabbed me, subdued me, and they put me in a shoe. No, I'm lying.
The SHU stands for?
Special Housing Unit, Solitary Confinement. They didn't do that, though. I skipped it. No, I'm not mixing it up.
Oh, okay.
I did. I ended up in the SHU, but it was something they did before I went to the SHU. They put me in mental health observation. Straight from that fight, they brought me to medical. The nurse ignored everything, and they put me in mental health observation. They said I was being erratic and suicidal or whatever, but I wasn't. Then they put me in the SHU. A couple weeks later, I seen the same sergeant, and I stopped him. I said, can I talk to you for a second? He said, yeah. He didn't even remember who I was. Mm. I said, yo, remember a couple weeks ago when, he said, oh, yeah, it was you. I was wow. So then I said, all I said to him was why? You know what this man said to me? He said, because I don't like the way you look. Now, I want to put this in context too. I got a tattoo on my face, in the middle of my eyebrows. It's a dollar sign. I got tattoos on my hands. And at that time, I had a bald head with a big beard. When I had the big beard, I was being ignored. I had a visit come in, somebody was coming to see me, so I cut the beard off. The same day I cut my beard off, that's when this happened. And he said he didn't like the way I look. And I'm like, wow, okay.
What do you do with that? I can imagine.
I couldn't even respond to it. I was just like...
The sense of not having any control over what happens to you, because obviously you can't control how you look, or, the type of situation that could, like, get...
That put me in the thought of, like, we're still in, like, the 1700s, 1800s, where there's people actively wanting to do something to me because of the color of my skin. It's just my way of life. And I'm just walking down the street. Another incident. This is recent, too. This was in 2021, December. This is right after my grandmother passed. I was going through a lot.
Yeah.
I was in the shoe because I got into a fight. And I had a suicide attempt, which, to be all really honest, wasn't really a suicide attempt. It was like a cry for help.
Yeah.
I was in the outside hospital because I swallowed a bunch of pills. And it was time for me to leave the hospital. And I guess the officers had, like, in their minds that I didn't want to leave the hospital because I was in the outside hospital. I wasn't in prison. I was in Wyoming Community, I want to say hospital, but it's Wyoming County Hospital. I was there. And they came to get me. And I didn't button my shirt all correct. And I was like, I was mentally gone. But so my shirt was all buttoned up. Some of the buttons was ripped. And they come to get me. They put the handcuffs on me. They put a black box on the handcuffs to secure the handcuffs. Then they put a waist chain on you through the handcuffs so your hands can be secured to your waist. The next step is they put shackles on your legs so you can't, like, run or kick or whatever. Usually, when they put the leg shackles on you, they sit you down. This incident, they had me standing up, and they put me against the wall. They had me lean against the wall and lift my legs up behind me so they could put the shackles on me. So when they told me to lift my left leg, I looked to my left while I got my left leg up. He said, face the wall. I said, face the wall for what? Just put the shackle on me. I'm already, like, I got the waist chain on me. Nothing's happening. Just put the shackle on. He said, face the effing wall. And he smacked the wall. I said, man, come on, man. Just put the shackle on me so we can go back. I'm tired. I want to go back. I want to wall shut. A different officer hit me in the back of the head. Now I'm like, why? So, I'm not the type of person to let anybody hit me or do anything to me. I'm sorry. So when he hit me, with the little leverage I had, because I was shackled, I had the waist chain on, I pushed off the wall into him, the person that hit me, and he fell. So in my mind, I'm like, you hit me, and he didn't hit me that hard. I'm like, why did you, they do stuff to provoke you. Mm-hmm. And create the situation. So now once they get you, they like, oh, you started it, but that didn't happen. You hit me first. If you didn't hit me, none of this would have happened. Mm-hmm. So he hit me. I pushed off the wall into him. He fell. And there was 3 officers there, and they rushed me. Now, mind you, I got my hands cuffed with a waist chain on. My hands cuffed to my waist. I can't move. All I have is my legs. So I'm kicking. I kicked like 2 of them. And they got me to the ground. They started beating me up on the ground. And none of this stuff hurt it. What hurt it was, because like I'm on my stomach. So the waist chain and my handcuffs, like I'm laying on my hands, and they're all on top of me, and the cuffs is biting. So I still got scars on my skin from the cuffs. They had to use wire cutters to get the cuffs off me. That was pinching my skin. Whoa, and yeah. So they beat me up. They put the shackles on my feet. They kept hitting me and stuff. I told them to stop hitting me because it's not hurting. I'm just being honest. Because I really wanted them to get off me because the cuffs was biting my wrist. It was in my wrist. Like, it was literally like they had told you I had to use wire cutters to cut them off. So then, once they get the shackles on my legs, they pick me up. I forgot to put this detail in. Like, 2 more officers come in to join them. So altogether, it was 5 officers against me. And I'm shackled on the ground. They get the legs on the leg shackles on my ankles, and they pick me up. Now they're picking me up to walk me out of the hospital, to carry me out of the hospital, rather. Now I said to these people, can you please put me down? Because we're about to walk past people. And we're in the outside hospital. This is normal, regular people. There's everyday people walking past us. Once we get past anybody, I'm going to make the hugest scene you ever seen in your life. Just please put me down. I could walk. They put me down because they didn't want that to happen. They walked me out. I get the misbehavior report, and it said that basically I was Jackie Chan, and that I started it, and I was agitated, and that I rushed them first. And I forgot the other detail for the other one, for Clinton. They wrote a misbehavior report for that, too. He said that I was turned around in the mess hall. He came in. Oh my God! Sorry about that. Yeah, they create. They got. Once they do it to you, they beat you up or whatever. They create the story of what happened.
Right.
Now, this thing that happened in Wyoming County, there was 2 cameras in this hospital room.
I remember this because
I was trying to get the FOIA the cameras.
Yeah, I've been out here experiencing what's been going on with you through your mom. Who's and she says all the time, she's like, I'm in there with him. And I remember trying to get access to the cameras.
In my defense, because I didn't start it, and they did have me. I was shackled.
Right, and I know that's not the first time that we've tried to find evidence to support you, and it's like a black box.
I understand if something happens within the prison. Mm-hmm. They have cameras all through the prison, and they're hesitant, or they won't give you footage within the prison. I understand that.
Right.
But this is a hospital.
Yeah, and what the word I got from the hospital was, we're not going to give it to you unless the prison says it's okay, which, of course, is in their best interest to say no. And
they told me that there's no cameras there. It doesn't exist. Now, I was in this hospital room for 5 days.
Yeah.
There was 2 cameras, one to my right, one to my left. If you're in the room for 5 days, you're going to know every inch of the room. I woke up and seen these cameras every day, went to sleep to them.
What does that do to you to feel like you can't win, and that something like that could happen to you at any point in time? And I know you said that you struggled, that you had a suicide attempt, and you said it was a cry for help, but what does that do to human beings in that environment?
It just made me super, I can't think of a word to articulate what I'm saying. Yeah. Ready for anything, or on edge.
Hypervigilant.
I wanted to say hypervigilant, but it's not vigilance, because I'm ready to attack. That's not. I think vigilance is being secure and being
ready to defend yourself.
Yeah. But sometimes it's not even defense, because in there you can say the wrong words and it just goes crazy off the wrong words being said. So yeah. And then everybody's watching you. You gotta portray this image because everybody's watching you, and you could just make the wrong decision. It's something like social media, kind of. You make this wrong decision, it'll just follow you forever. And so.
Right. And they call it the correctional facility. Do you feel like that is the goal?
No. Everything I had to force myself to grow as a human, as a person, within myself. And I did that in the SHU, in solitary confinement, because you're not going to get it from anywhere else in there, because they don't care. Nobody cares. They're getting their check and they're going home. And I respect that, but if you're getting paid to do the job, at least do the job.
I remember the trouble you had towards the end, that there was a program that you needed to complete in order to leave, and I don't know, 6 months? More than that did it take to actually get you into the program?
Yeah, Myra Correctional Facility. They have this program called ART. It's called Aggression Replacement Training. It's for if you had a violent crime, or if you caught a violent misbehavior report while in prison. It's an 8 months program. You take it to get approval for the board to go home, or to get approval from Time Allowance Committee, which is like another form of a parole board. I needed this program to go home, and they took their time giving me the program. Actually, I don't think there hasn't been programs running actively in prison probably in the past 18 months. Still right to this day while I'm speaking to you right now, there's no program running, because I just talked to my parole officer an hour ago. She was in Attica last week. Only thing they get to do is take a shower, use the phone, and they're back in their cell. Wow. There's no program. So it hasn't been programmed for the past 18 months, and I just left like 40 days ago. There was a program when I was there. There's still not programs right now to this day. So
did you ever get to go through it?
I got the program. Once I get this program, they make it seem like it's so important that I need it to get out. It's just me and a counselor. We talking about sports. We not even doing the program. He had this big book. He said, you can fill it out if you want. I'm not really going to be on you guys' back. Nah, I understood it, but I already, in my mind, once I got my 10th year in, I made an acceptance to myself that I was wrong, what I did was wrong, I'm not going to do it again, and that my actions affect other people. So, I already learned my lesson within myself. So me going to this program is just me going through the motions. But still, once you have me in here, let's do the work now. We was talking about Caitlin Clark, because that was around the time when she was a big phenomenon.
Okay. I don't even know who that is.
Caitlin Clark was a female basketball player.
Oh, okay.
And she can shoot from anywhere.
Ooh.
And last year she was like the big sensation, and we was talking about her. But we were really supposed to be talking about this program for me to get out.
What would you, and I know that, I've been really impressed with your wanting to take your experience to help other people, and to help the, carceral justice system, if you can call it that, do better. And what are some of your thoughts on what could change?
In the prison system? As far as like the treatment of us, or as far as the prisoners?
I guess both.
The treatment, people have job descriptions. And now I'm speaking on a general global basis, and I tend to think like that, which is a problem, but it's really not. If you have a job, they give you a description of what you do in that job. Just do your job. That's it. I don't want nothing extra. I don't want to be your friend. I don't want to. That can come along, but just do your job. And what they details you to do. As far as the prisoners, they need to stick together more and realize that we have way more in common than we have like differences, and that's more of a global thing too. But
Absolutely.
it's more divided in the prison because it's prison. There's a bunch of people that caught crimes or committed crimes, and they're in a negative place, not learning anything. They're not growing as humans, so they're just still stuck in a cesspool of negativity. It's just a cycle going over and over and over again. And lost my thought.
Yeah. And I can imagine, the feeling that you're never quite safe. And we know, in terms of like scientifically, what chronic stress does to the body, does to the mind. And,
Oh, excuse me. That's the point I was going to make about the prisoners being negative and just be stuck in the cell. It's literally a human zoo. If you could think how a zoo is, it's a zoo for humans.
Do you feel like you were treated like an animal?
Yes. And there's been times where I played into it. Be able to survive or just to... Sometimes I do that to get reactions.
How do you hold on to your humanity in that kind of a situation?
My mother, honestly, that's just my mom and my little brother and my family, my immediate family. My mother, my father, my little brother, my nephew, and a few of my cousins and aunts. Other than that, if I didn't have that, I probably would have still been in there.
It was that connection to who you were before you went in.
Yeah, and in my mind, I felt like, because I lived a crazy life, and I feel like I'm supposed to be dead, and then I feel like I'm here for a reason, and that all the stuff I'm going through is preparing me for what I got in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, that is powerful. We're a collection of all of the experiences we've ever had, and if we can learn and grow from them, like your direct experience can help someone else.
Yes, and I want to do
help
that.
make our society better. And there's such a stigma having become justice involved and spent time away, and it really impacts people when they come home and their ability to find housing and jobs and to feel like a part of our society again. When, people have been through something traumatic, and if we can help them heal, that benefits all of us.
You just made me think of something when you said that. I didn't even think that. That's like the biggest elephant in the room. For me anyway, me personally. For me coming home from doing 15 years. I did 15 years. No, I didn't even do 15 years. I did 14 years and 364 days. They gave me a day. But after doing all that time and getting released, they put me in a homeless shelter. Now, I just said I had family support. My mother, my father, my brother, a couple aunts, a couple cousins. I got a big family too. And even the family that I didn't see in years, if they see me, they love me because that's how my family is. So, and I could live with any one of them if the opportunity presented itself. But through parole wouldn't let me live with my mother because she's on Section 8. And they deemed me homeless and put me in a homeless shelter. So you take a guy that did 15 years and put me in a homeless shelter around people that are literally homeless. And now I have nothing against homeless people, but I'm not homeless. They're not clean or whatever, and why should I have to be subject to that? Coming out of where I just came from, and the shelter setting is like a prison. It's like a medium secure prison. And when I did my intake for the shelter, the lady was asking me questions, and she was giving me the rules of the shelter. I caught a flashback. I felt, because it literally felt like I was in jail. Some of the rules she said and some of the things she was saying mirrored prison rules. So I got mad, and I'm like, my whole energy changed and everything. I'm like, she looked at me like, what's wrong? I'm like, excuse me, miss. I explained it to her, like, I just did all this time, and it's for like, I'm going right back in it. And she's like, oh my God, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you. I'm like, it's not your fault. It's just, this is my situation. And I wanted to convey that to her so she won't just think I'm just being weird.
Yeah, that has to be very hard.
It's frustrating.
You got used to it, and then you had this glimmer of hope that now you're out, and to be back in a situation that feels similar, it's almost worse than never leaving in the first place.
Yeah. It's like I just came right back, and I had a flash of it, and yeah, I just felt like I was in jail. Again, like after doing all the time, just came right back out of the habit.
So, in terms of treatment, I would imagine you'd want people to be treated with more respect when
Yes.
they're in there.
In prison?
Yeah. So you're talking about how to make it better?
Yes, because correction officers, the ones that are bad, they go out of their way to antagonize you or to create a situation where you got to fight, or they're just literally just start punching you. I've literally seen, like, it happened to me. They just start punching you. And like, it's either you defend yourself or you let them do it. And either way, you're going to get the same results.
And I also know that it isn't like you haven't reported it.
Excuse me?
That you've tried to go through the channels available to inmates, or to
Oh, the grievance system.
Right.
They got a grievance system that's inadequate.
yeah.
It doesn't even make sense. Sometimes you can write a grievance and it won't even make it to where you want it. It won't even make it to the grievance office. Like, you just wrote a letter for no reason. Literally, like, that just happened to me too when I was talking about going to get into that program to go home. I wrote like 20 grievances because I ain't had nothing else to do. Every day I just wrote one. And I didn't get a response for not one grievance. I wrote Time Allowance Committee, which is another form of the parole board, which is supposed to be like an official entity because they decide whether a prisoner go home or not. But the people that run the Time Allowance Committee is prison staff. So they're like lieutenants or senior officers. So they don't care. They're not. I don't think they even read any of my letters. I wrote them over 20 times. I would have been home.
Right. Yeah, and I know.
Just if they would have looked at one letter, like, oh yeah, let's get this guy out. But they didn't do that.
So with that feeling that your grievances just go into maybe a black hole, there's not really a path for accountability.
There's none
for the
whatsoever.
officers.
I don't know how this recent incident happened with the brother that died, how it came out, because usually it doesn't come out.
And you had just a couple more days.
Yeah, it happened
inside.
like within a week. I was getting released. It happened. Yeah.
And it affected me powerfully because I think I heard first. I think it was he was 43, and I know that I'm 43 and we're about the same age.
Yeah.
And my first thought was like, oh my God.
We could have all went to school together.
Right. And I just thought, could it have been you? And
It could have been.
It could have been.
Yeah, I told you the same thing happens to me over 20 times, but fortunately I didn't die. But that's like regular. It happens every day, literally. Right now, probably while we're speaking, is somebody getting assaulted, gang assaulted, actually, by a correctional officer, especially in the medium correctional facilities, because there's no cameras nowhere.
No,
And
there's no cameras.
usually the guys that are in medium security, they're young, and they're around like 20, between like 16 and 20. So when stuff happens to them, they're not going to report it, or they don't know how to report it. So it's going on daily.
Yeah. And now that you're out, what do you see for your future?
It's limitless because the ideas I got, I just need to sit down and find the right people or connect with the right people to get all these ideas out. Or once I'm stable, you'll be able to get them by myself. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about some of your ideas?
I rap. I got a video game in my head. I want to accumulate a lot of money because I want to, like, you see how they got like the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club.
Mm-hmm.
I want to do the same thing in every inner city. Have a rec center, a mental health center, and a charter school. It's like a three.
All together.
Yeah, it's like a 3-headed prong thing, or they can be like side by side for every inner city across America, eventually the world. Yeah.
What do you think that would do for youth?
It will help because it's stuff that I didn't have. Like, we had rec centers, but the mental health center and the charter school thing, I didn't have access to anything like that. And I'm saying the mental health thing because as a kid, looking back, mentally I was going through stuff that I didn't know how to navigate with, that I didn't know I wasn't normal. And it's people right now that's walking around like that, that's kids, that's going through stuff they don't know how to cope with or navigate with. And I'm trying to prevent them from going through the same path I went through because, honestly, in my opinion, I believe that if my circumstances is different, my life would be totally different.
And it frustrates me that isn't widely accepted and understood.
What?
That our circumstances dictate how our lives turn out, and like obviously there's
because it is a flip side to that because some people use it as an excuse.
Well, exactly. So I was gonna say,
but it's not for me personally. I put myself in it. I'm not using it as an excuse because it's a fact.
No.
Because
kids in Brighton don't wake up and steal cars, right?
They don't wake up hearing gunshots.
No, it's not the kids in Brighton are better humans. They're just growing in different soil, and that
analogy you just made is perfect.
Yeah.
When you make plants in messed up soil, the plants are going to grow messed up. I want to say a different word.
and there's some that grow well and they adapt and that they thrive in that environment, but it's not the majority. And you do the best you can. And I really firmly believe that humans are humans. There's not good ones. There's not bad ones. There's ones that make bad decisions. There's ones that have limited options and maybe they don't make the best choices. But given the resources and a different environment, it will make better choices.
Yes. Like me specifically, me growing up, are you into movies?
Am I into movies?
Yeah, you watch movies?
Yeah.
You ever seen Menace to Society?
Maybe.
You got, you know who Lorenz Tate is?
Uh-huh.
It's one of his movies. He's the old dog. He had the braids. He like robbed he robbed a convenience store and all that. You know, remember that?
Mm.
Well, I was saying that to make a point because in the beginning of that movie, the main character, his name was Kane, and his house was like the neighborhood hangout. But we call it the trap. There was drugs there, and there's a lot of parties and card games. People was getting shot there. And this kid was growing up in the house. Mm. He grew up to be in the streets too. Mm-hmm. My house was similar to that. Like, there was a lot going on. I seen a lot as a youth going on, and I'm not to fault my parents because they was just trying to survive and navigate through what they were going through. But I seen a lot, and I went through a lot, and like what we were just speaking on, our environment, our circumstances. Somebody from the outside looking in, it'll be obvious the direction we eventually going in.
So I teach social emotional learning, and I'm really fascinated by brain science because so much of what we now know about our brains, it puts everything into context, and we're kind of like human computers.
We are.
And
actually, our brains make us that.
Exactly. We're filled with electricity and electrical signals, and like almost like wires in our brain. We say we can rewire our brain. We know that now. That neural pathways and connections, all of that, right? So I think of us as we can only do something with the inputs that we have.
Exactly.
And we have different inputs, and so it's like a computer program. It's not. There is, I don't know the intersection.
It's like same thing with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
It's going to go off what you feed it.
Exactly. And
the person that's feeding it, you got to watch that person that's feeding it.
And we know this about artificial intelligence too, that it inherits our biases because we are the ones that are giving it the input. And so we have to be very intentional about the input that we are giving our kids, and I'm very passionate about kids understanding how their brains and their bodies work, how to process emotions, what's actually going on in their brains when they get triggered, because we'll blame a kid for throwing a chair, right? But if we understand how the brain works, by the time the kid got to that moment, he no longer has control, because the part of our brain that is meant to protect us, if we're in a house fire, right, we don't sit around and think what to do. Our brain
just react.
We have fight, flight, or freeze. So when a kid gets into that triggered state, he's literally the part of our brain responsible for good decision making is turned off. So the time to intervene with that kid is before, and to teach him what the signs are, for us to understand what the signs are, and to help them understand how they work, instead of blaming them for the result of a whole series of process where we could have intervened ahead of time, or like you were saying in the prison, or provoked it.
Yes.
And I see a lot of that happening in the schools, where teachers have not done their own work to understand their patterns and their history and how it influences their behavior. I'm not a trained teacher. I got into the profession as a long-term substitute. I have a background in technology, I think, which is why I think about us like computers. But
you're actually right, though.
Yeah. I was surprised that when I got up in a classroom in front of kids, it brought up insecurities from when I was a kid. Like, it was still in there. And it was coming out. I had done enough work to realize it. Be like, wow, I got some stuff to work through. But when you don't have visibility of your self-awareness, I could have easily blamed the kids. But I know when a class was haywire, and there was one day in particular I'm thinking of that I had a couple of classes in a row that were haywire, and I have to look at me. Like, what energy am I showing up with? Because it's not a coincidence, likely, that all these kids are, acting differently. So there's a lot that teachers can do inadvertently to trigger kids.
I want to bring a point, because I say this a lot, that people, two things. People need to look at their role in every situation, and people ignore their role in every situation. That's key to a lot of stuff that's going on. You got to be aware of your role in every situation. Because people just are going on with blinders on. And I wanted to make a point about something you said about flight, fight, and freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And about the environment I grew up in and how I was raised. Those other two things were programmed out of me. I don't have flight or freeze. I still don't have it. All I have is just fight. I don't got time to freeze because I'm gonna die. If I freeze,
you learned that is the only option, and like you couldn't run away from the guards, and
even though I'm talking about even
playing dead.
I'm talking about even before then, like the way I was raised, that was like programmed out of me. I can't run unless like it's literally bullets flying at me, but you're not gonna run and you're not gonna freeze. That was programmed out of me. I was like kind of like how they be training Marines or like they train them like to be fearless and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think I got that in me, or they programmed it. Or that's it, they programmed it.
And
I got programmed like that.
And like stepping back into the brain science, right? It's like neural pathways got really deepened because I think of it like, I explain it to kids like a path through a field. Like the first time you walk through the field and you look behind you, there's no path. But if you walk that exact same path every day, you'll start to see it, and that's what goes on in our brains. So that pathway for you is well worn, and it's extremely difficult to change paths when you're...
I'm still dealing with that, right? As we speaking,
It's practice.
You got to break out of it.
Right, it's like you got to walk down that new path in the field a bunch of times before it starts to be more natural than what you're used to. And I think we really do ourselves, our kids, our society a disservice when we don't acknowledge that that's just how we work. And, it's a growth mindset in that however you are now, we have the power to change it. I've heard, terrible things about what people say about our kids, like calling them monsters and that they're irredeemable, and that's just not science. Like, everyone can change, given...
Especially a kid.
Especially a kid.
In my opinion, if you're under 16, even before then or after then, even a grown man or a grown woman, like, you gotta be optimistic with some things because anything can happen. You don't know what can impact a person or what message. They might get the right message from the right messenger. Mm-hmm. They didn't meet the right messenger yet.
Right. The one to give them hope or a different idea of what's possible. And, I think going back to the school environment, we, as the adults in the building, have such an opportunity to help kids, show them different ways, different options of what they can do, and help them understand themselves. It would be huge. If I knew what I know now when I was a kid,
everybody say that. I say it all the time.
My life would be so different. Like the patterns that I'm just now realizing as a 43-year-old woman, it now feels like limitless, like you were saying. Like, now I know I can literally achieve anything I want if I work for it. Yes. If I do it and if I practice enough.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I meant. And I forgot what I was saying.
It's fascinating, like how much we're capable of. And it's almost like unlocking an achievement in a video game or something. The other part for me that's been transformational is learning to love myself, and everything in this society is working against that, because if we love ourselves, then we don't need to buy the makeup or the new car. We're not as worried what people think of us, and that is a commodity.
I'm vain. So
I don't think it's a bad thing.
So I don't know. Like, I'm self-aware, and I try to keep myself presentable at all times.
Yeah. You get that from your mom.
I guess, I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, it has been an incredible hour talking to you, and I can't believe it's almost over.
I'm kind of frustrated because I lost a thought. I lost a couple thoughts, but I gained it back. With this one, I forgot it. But
Yeah.
this was interesting, though, and I like this. And I would like to do this again.
Yeah, I love
Or something similar.
It's important that people understand from many different perspectives, and coming from someone who's so recently back into our society and out of that terrible environment inside the prison, I think it's really a perspective that we don't hear often. And I'm really grateful that you shared it with us.
One more point I want to make.
Mm-hmm.
I be feeling real awkward. Like, I don't know how to meet new people. I feel like that's only, like, the biggest thing. People always ask me, like, what I'm struggling with or what's, like, my biggest obstacle. That one is, like, the biggest one. And then it doesn't help that everybody meets everybody now through social media.
Right.
So I'm not like that. So I'll come to a person talking to them and they looking at me like I got 10 heads. I want to shake their hand. They backing up like I'm trying to hit them. It's weird.
Yeah, that's so hard.
Get off your phone.
well, I would
Well, watch this though, but get off the phone after.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll be back with you next Tuesday.